The BBC has been hitting the headlines for all the wrong reasons in recent weeks, but it's under fresh fire today after the broadcast of its new documentary on Brits who have chosen not to have the COVID jab. Unvaccinated saw 7 folk put in a house for 5 days while a flurry of so-called experts tried to diffuse their concerns about taking the injection. Presented by Professor Hannah Fry, a data-crunching mathematician who takes credit for bringing us out of the first lockdown in 2020, the show ultimately tried to get the group to change their minds and get vaccinated. But participants of the programme, which aired on BBC Two last night, have now hit out at the, quote, bias beep for crafty editing and cutting key scenes from their contributions. Here's a clip of tonight's guests, Nazarene, Veronica and Vicky Borman in action on the show.
My friend Katrina, she is 28 years old. She was perfectly healthy before. She only had 1 dose of the Pfizer vaccine. 5 days later, she was beginning to experience brain fog. Now she's had a stroke. She's had 3 suspected heart attacks. So this is a video of her having a seizure.
How can you be sure that that was the vaccine and not something that would have happened anyway? This time, the nasty jelly bean represents the risk of getting myocarditis.
This is not how we should be doing this. It makes me quite angry and quite frustrated when I'm, gunning for thousands of people who have either died or been injured, that I'm going to sit here and entertain jelly beans. I'm so frustrated. This is just, I say, the most frustrating thing I've ever done in my entire life.
Many viewers have since blasted the BBC for broadcasting, quote, unbalanced propaganda. And the Daily Telegraph also let rip, calling the programme a painfully patronising documentary that was akin to Big Brother sponsored by Pfizer, before giving it a paltry 1 star out of 5. And I'm delighted now to be joined by the 2 leading stars of the programme, Nazarene and Vicky, who've accused the BBC of woefully misrepresenting them. So, Vicky, talk to me about how the BBC misrepresented you and why you feel let down by the programme.
I don't know if I'd use the definite term misrepresented, but I'm terribly frustrated this morning, as I was last night. I feel let down because I went in there to tell everybody why I wasn't vaccinated, and I don't think anybody that I've spoke to this morning knows the answer to that question.
And what is the answer to that question?
Well, I think you would have had to have spent a week with me. There are a lot of different reasons, which is what we try to speak to Hannah about, talking about everything from statistics to things we're seeing in the papers. The list was endless, and at no point do I feel like those questions were actually addressed.
And Nazarene, when it came to your personal story, they obviously included the moment where you spoke about your friend who had suffered adverse side effects. But I believe you have also lost a relative to vaccine damage, and you say the BBC left that out of the programme?
Yeah, there were many times where I mentioned that my great-grandma was killed by this vaccine and my other grandma had a stroke after hers. So that's not just one person that I've seen have an adverse reaction. That's 3 people in my circle who I've seen have an adverse reaction. So obviously I'm going to be a bit sceptical if I'm watching this happen in front of me. But I feel that it was left out, and I'm really upset that they didn't include that, because it's really important and it shows that I'm not just, crazy, and I'm not just seeing one person and having this strong opinion because of it. It's multiple people in my close circle, so yeah.
Naz isn't the only person in the house that also has friends or close family members who have either died or had different adverse reactions or side effects. Everybody had a story to tell on a personal level, myself included, but yeah, they were not represented.
And Vicky, I have to be honest, my impression, having sat through the documentary, is that they wanted to portray the participants as mad conspiracy theorists.
I understand totally from watching the documentary last night why you feel like that. I think...
And you're not, are you?
Absolutely not, no. I'm an adult who can make an informed, coerced decision about my body. There was definitely a narrative there, and I think, you know, they picked people who had a background story which was maybe not necessary, if that makes sense to you. They could have put other very credible people in there from the health profession, doctors and such like, but they chose not to. And I think that always makes me sceptical, is why were 7 members of the public, I guess, up against the professionals? It wasn't evenly balanced in that respect.
So already it started off from it wasn't an equal playing ground. It started off immediately, you know, it was unfair. Everyone could see that.
And can we talk about one of the professors who featured in the documentary, because this is a scientist called Professor Adam Finn, who's at Bristol University. But what wasn't actually revealed at all in the documentary is he is the director of Pfizer's Vaccine Centre of Excellence, which the company invested £4.6 million in. So it feels like, at the very least, the BBC should have revealed that information.
I agree. I would have liked to have known that.
Yeah.
I would have liked to have had it revealed to me exactly what I was going in there to do. I went in there to explain to everyone why we were not vaccinated, and that's not what happened.
They didn't tell us that the whole point of the show would be to change our minds.
Or experiment on us. And, yeah, I mean, with the professor, I mean, talk about conflict of interest, right? Like, how can you have someone and say that they're an independent researcher when they
have received funding from Pfizer?
Exactly.
And the other thing that really shocked me was just the complete lack of anyone actually saying, hang on a moment, why would Vicky and Nazarene need to get the COVID vaccine? You are young, you've quite possibly had COVID before, which would give you a natural immunity. There was no... I mean, I literally don't think the phrase natural immunity was mentioned once.
We would have said it 100 times.
I think there was a time where I think one of the scientists who was working in making the vaccines, he said that vaccine antibodies are higher than natural immunity antibodies, which is completely false. I mean, if you look at... There are many studies which prove that that is not correct. So that was shocking to watch back.
A lot of the time we did have the professionals actually on our side. They were saying things that were not going to portray the vaccine in a positive light, so that those comments have just been left out.
And there were many times where they couldn't answer our questions as well, which we secretly knew the answers to already. So the fact that these experts, the top experts, could not answer our questions, it kind of says it all.
Do either of you regret taking part in the documentary?
No. Definitely not.
I mean, it's just an opportunity to spread the truth, which I feel is lacking in the media at the moment. Like, it just seems that they're very one-sided and focused on one particular narrative, and anything from the other side is being heavily censored, or, you know, people are having their accounts taken down. So, yeah, I don't regret it at all. No, I'm glad I went on.
I'm glad I went on, and if anything, it's made me question even more everything, including the vaccine. Why couldn't we just have an open adult conversation, an actual, what I would class as a documentary on why I'm not vaccinated? What was everybody so worried about?
Do you think these sorts of documentaries and the way that they're portrayed spreads division in society? Because that's my real concern. The BBC, who claim that they want to be diverse, they actually want to treat the unvaccinated as if they're some sort of freak show.
Well, that's something that we said a lot, is that actually, you know, we can sit down and be adults and speak to you in a nice way. To have jelly beans representing people who have died, and I said there and then, thanks to editing, you won't see that, but it isn't just about the people that died from a vaccine or the people that have died from the adverse reactions. It's people that died of COVID as well. We're representing those people's lives with a jelly bean. it's patronising. So if you're going to treat us like children, in many times you'll see that we got frustrated and walked out because I'm not there to be treated like a child. Sit down and treat me and act like an adult, and, you know, we could have had a really good documentary. There was substance in there that I think I'm gutted that wasn't shown.
Yeah.
Well, Vicky Boardman and Nazra and Veronica, thank you so much for agreeing to speak out about your experience tonight. Of course, we do get both sides of the story, as you know, on GB News. So we have approached the BBC today, and this is how they responded. This 1-hour documentary accurately represents the views expressed during filming and adheres to the BBC's strict editorial guidelines, especially with regards to accuracy and fairness. And a Department of Health and Social Care spokesman said all vaccines have undergone robust clinical trials and meet the UK medical regulators' strict standards of safety, effectiveness and quality. On the professor featured in the programme, who works at Pfizer's vaccine centre, mentioned by our guest tonight, a BBC spokesman said Professor Finn is an employee of the University of Bristol and in that capacity leads a research group within the Pfizer Vaccine Centre of Excellence. He is not a director in a corporate sense and receives no payment or benefit directly from Pfizer. His work in relation to COVID-19 vaccines is independent of Pfizer's control or direction and will be subject to peer review in the usual way. He did not lead or conduct any trials of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine.